beautiful Florida. And today our question comes to us from Ricardo Benison. And Ricardo has this question. Ricardo remarks upon the fact that there are many people out there who will do spells for other people in return for money. And his question is, if you were to hire a person to enact a spell, which he describes as not a very good spell, meaning a spell intended to do harm, who would have the karma for this spell, you or the person who actually performed it? And my answer to this is that first, karma is not a simple question. Karma is not really a color by number type of subject. But within that context, with that understanding, my answer would be yes. And what I mean by that is that you would both have karma from it. If you have asked someone, for example, to break into someone else's house on your behalf, that does not mean you have no responsibility simply because they undertook the act. If you hire someone to commit a murder on your behalf, you certainly share that guilt with them as well. And so if you hire someone to perform a spell for you, and it's a very negative type of spell, of course you share the karma for that, just as if it were a physical act. When you put them up to it, you entered into a joint responsibility. And this is also true for the person doing the spell. Just because it's on someone else's behalf does not mean that you do not have any responsibility for it. Although the exact circumstances do make some difference. What you do or do not know about the situation, for example, but that doesn't always have anything to do with karma. And karma is about lessons and not necessarily about human ideas of justice. So the fact that you may not have known exactly what you were being asked to do doesn't mean that you are not still attached to the lesson that is embodied in the situation. So my answer is that both persons involved would share responsibility for the act. They would share the karma. And if it's a very negative type of spell, you might say they would share the guilt for it. Because when you use magic to harm people, it's no different than any other way you might harm them. And it is an act that involves guilt. Now, having said that, there is a related question that we might also address. And that is, if you have merely told someone how to do something, and then they go out and do something negative with that knowledge, do you bear responsibility for it? And my personal answer to that is I would say no. I would not think you would bear responsibility for their actions simply because they learned how to do it from you, unless you happen to have had direct information of how they were going to use it. That would make a difference. But I don't think that sharing knowledge by itself involves sharing responsibility. If it did, sharing all knowledge would become a very morally risky matter, and I think that'd be very bad for the human race. I think it's generally good to share knowledge, and the fact that someone might make a bad choice on their own with knowledge they have acquired does not mean you should not still share that knowledge on the premise that they might just as easily use it in a very good way. And so I would say no, that would not involve shared karma or shared responsibility. Now, speaking of karma, as I say, karma is not a color by number type of subject. And there are many different ideas about karma. And sometimes you'll hear people say, oh, karma is a Hindu idea. Well, yes, but it's also a Jainist idea, it's a Buddhist idea, and in the last couple of centuries it's pretty common in Western civilization as well. And there are many different ideas about karma and how karma works. And those ideas range all the way from the idea that it's a kind of moral repayment system where good brings you good and bad brings you bad, to the idea that it works through attachment and what you do or do not hold on to the idea that it's a physical substance that can be dealt with in physical ways. And all of these are very ancient ways of looking at karma. It's a much wider range of ideas than most people give it credit for. I tend to come from the Buddhistic point of view that karma is a matter of attachment, and that it isn't necessarily about human ideas of morality or justice, but a matter of what the soul needs to learn and grow, and that the perspective is different. And so I would say that you will have karma if you attach to it, which is something which in certain cases you can bring your conscious mind to bear on, and in many other cases you cannot, and is a matter of the soul. And when you do spiritual work, you can come to the point that you work with the disentanglement of karma from many different lifetimes and from this lifetime. And this, I think, is a very important part of a spiritual journey, and it allows you to do a great deal of opening of energy otherwise blocked, because part of the idea of attachment is also the idea of blockage. So, all of this would go into my answer to the question, but my basic answer is that if you have paid someone or otherwise hired someone to do something negative on your behalf, yes, I would say that you definitely share the karma, as do they, and that it is a joint effort and therefore also a joint responsibility. And similarly, if you were to pay or otherwise engage someone to go out and do something good on your behalf, that this would also be a shared responsibility. So those would be my thoughts on the matter. I hope you find them helpful, and until next time, may you blessed be. Hello, this is Reverend Don Lewis coming to you from witchschool.com. Are you looking for the best in pagan and magical education? With more than 12,000 pages, witchschool.com is like having your own personal library with individual learning assistants to help you study. And Witchschool's Anyone, Anytime, Anywhere education system is available any place on Earth, anywhere you are and anytime you want it, as long as you have an internet connection. Witchschool's lifetime memberships are a great value. They really do last a lifetime. They've been there for years and they'll be there for years to come. So get your membership today at witchschool.com.